Alicia Trent stepped off the shuttle onto the metallic surface of Kythara Prime. The air buzzed with a heavy hum, thick with the smell of hot metal and oil. Jagged towers of blackened steel rose around her, scraped and scarred from years of manufacturing. The Kytharians, an industrial warrior race, had built their home as a tribute to strength and might. Before her, a grand parade showcased their power. Massive war machines rolled through the streets, their segmented exoskeletons gleaming under the harsh lights. Each machine was a blend of dark, angular designs, with red-orange energy cores pulsing like a heartbeat. The sound of grinding gears mixed with the rumble of engines filled the air, creating a symphony of industrial might. Alicia felt a shiver run down her spine. The Kytharians revered strength above all. Their culture celebrated the brutalist beauty of their machines and the honor of their warriors. He had come to negotiate, to represent Earth in this summit, but she was acutely aware of their disdain for what they might see as her people's weakness. As the parade continued, Alicia's heart raced. She knew the stakes were high. This summit could redefine humanity's place in the galaxy. She took a deep breath, centering herself in the midst of the chaos. She reminded herself of the sacrifices humans made in the past. They had thrived against overwhelming odds, and she needed that spirit now. Suddenly, an ear-splitting clang echoed through the square. A war machine, not part of the demonstration, began to sway dangerously. An officer, Vorak, stood nearby, his segmented armor glinting. He looked startled as the machine's arm swung wildly, its powerful hydraulics straining against faulty programming. In a split second, Alicia reacted. She dashed toward Vorak, her feet pounding against the cold metal ground. Her heart raced as she reached him just in time. With a quick push, she shoved him out of the machine's path. They both fell, rolling to safety as the machine crashed down behind them, sending metal shards skittering across the bright surface. Vorak stared at her, confusion etched across his rugged face. The Kytharian culture valued strength, yet here was a human showing instinctual bravery. Alicia offered a quick smile, a fleeting moment of warmth breaking through the steel-heavy atmosphere. She had saved him, but would this act mean anything in a world that revered power above all? As the parade resumed, Alicia rose to her feet. She helped Vorak up, the weight of their encounter heavy in the air. The Kytharian officer was still processing what had just happened. She could feel the shift in his gaze, a flicker of surprise mingling with respect. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. Around her, Kytharians resumed their proud display, their war machines continuing to march forward. But behind their fierce exteriors, she sensed a subtle change. They were warriors, yes, but perhaps there was more beneath their hard shells. Perhaps they could learn to see strength in ways beyond mere force. The summit continued, with more demonstrations showcasing the Kytharian technology. Each display reverberated through Alicia's bones. The machines roared, their engines echoing the dominance they carried. Alicia watched intently, listening closely to the grinding of gears and the crackling energy cores. She noted the precision of their movements, the power they wielded. But within that mechanical might, she saw a beauty that transcended the brutalist design. It was a beauty born of necessity and survival. The Kytharians forged their world from the fires of industry, just as humanity had forged its own identity through struggle and creativity. In the following days, Alicia engaged with Kytharian leaders. They questioned her about human warfare, their voices deep and resonant, filled with challenge. Each discussion pushed her to the edge of her capabilities. She spoke of human history, the resilience shown in battles fought and lives lost. Yet, it was her unexpected moment of bravery that had opened the door. It had shown a glimpse of humanity's heart, one that beat fiercely despite its fragility. Alicia realized that her quick thinking had not just saved a warrior, but had also begun to weave a thread of understanding between their worlds. The days passed in a flurry of activity. Conversations flowed, sparking curiosity and confusion amongst the Kytharians. They began to look at her through a lens of respect. Perhaps there was more to humans than weakness. Perhaps strength could manifest in many forms. Alicia felt the connection growing, a bond forged in the fires of shared experiences. As she looked into the eyes of the Kytharians, she wondered if she could truly bridge the divide between their worlds. Maybe, just maybe, she could show them that true strength lay not just in armor and machines, but in the courage to protect one another. The first steps had been taken. The summit was just beginning, but hope flickered like a warm flame, ready to ignite into something greater. Alicia Trent stood in the shadow of Kythara Prime's massive war machines. Their metallic surfaces gleamed in the dim light. The smell of hot metal filled the air, mixed with the thick scent of oil and smoke from the Forge World's industries. She felt a mix of awe and anxiety. The Kytharians had shown their might, but could they understand her? Over the next few days, Alicia participated in meetings. The Kytharian leaders, their segmented exoskeletons glinting under the harsh lights, challenged her. They questioned her about human warfare, strategy, and the nature of strength. The sound of their deep voices rumbled through the hall. They were intense and fierce, their eyes fixed on her, searching for weakness. Yet Alicia stood firm. She responded with clarity and logic. The Kytharians watched, surprised. To them, humans were soft, weak. But here stood a human, unwavering in the face of their scrutiny. The respect they held for strength began to shift. They found something admirable in her calmness. During one meeting, she shared stories from Earth's history. She spoke of battles fought in the name of freedom. She described the courage it took for soldiers to sacrifice everything for their loved ones. The room grew silent. The Kytharians, proud of their militaristic culture, could not ignore the depth of emotion in her tales. Alicia spoke of the world wars, of soldiers who fought not just for land, but for their families' future. She told them how humans often showed mercy, even to their enemies. As her words painted vivid images, she noticed the Kytharians' faces change. Their hardened expressions softened, revealing confusion and intrigue. The grinding of gears echoed in the distance, a reminder of their world of industry and war. Yet, Alicia's voice broke through that sound. She could feel the weight of her stories pulling at their hearts, challenging their beliefs about strength. Vorak, the Kytharian officer she saved, listened intently. His segmented armor shifted as he leaned closer. Alicia caught his gaze. In his bright red eyes, she saw a flicker of something new, a hint of respect. But it was complicated. This warrior had been raised to value power above all else. Now he found himself questioning everything. As days passed, the discussions deepened. Alicia felt a growing connection with Vorak and the other Kytharians. She understood the weight they carried, the honor they protected. Their culture was built on strength. Yet this dialogue forced them to explore new ideas. Could mercy be a strength too? The Kytharians, with their heavy artillery and war machines, had never seen victory through compassion. They fought to dominate, to crush their enemies. But Alicia's stories opened a door. They began to ponder the human spirit. Was it possible that emotions could fuel strength? Each meeting shifted the atmosphere. The Kytharians began to view Alicia not just as a diplomat, but as a worthy counterpart. They admired her bravery to share such vulnerable stories. The once dismissive glances turned into curious stares. Their respect was growing, and Alicia felt it. Yet a part of her was still cautious. She knew the Kytharians were on a bound. In their eyes, strength was everything. Would they ever accept the depth of human compassion, or would they see it as a weakness to exploit? One evening, in a dimly lit chamber adorned with brutalist machinery, Alicia sat across from Vorak. The hum of energy cores filled the silence between them. She could feel the tension in the air. Their worlds were so different, but here they were, sharing a moment of understanding. Vorak shifted in his seat. His segmented exoskeleton reflected the low light. "You speak of sacrifice," he said slowly, his voice deep and resonant. "But to what end? Is it worth so many lives?" Alicia felt his struggle. "It is worth everything. We fight not just for ourselves, but for each other. Compassion makes us stronger together. Alone, we can fall, but together, we can rise." The Kytharians observed this exchange closely. Their honor demanded respect, yet here was a human challenging their long-held beliefs. Outside, the wind howled against the Forge World's towering structures. The air was thick with the raw energy of industry. The Kytharians thrived on this environment, but Alicia thrived on connection. She continued sharing stories of unity among humans. They rallied together in times of crisis. They faced insurmountable odds, not just with weapons, but with their hearts. With each story, the Kytharians felt the shift within themselves. They began to understand that strength was not just brute force, it was also the courage to care. Their thoughts echoed in the air, mixing with the grinding gears and the low hum of machinery. Days turned into weeks, the meetings continued, each one a step closer to bridging the gap between worlds. The Kytharians' view of humanity began to change. They started recognizing the unexpected strength that compassion brought. Alicia could sense their internal conflict. She saw it in their expressions, felt it in the silence after her stories. The Kytharians were grappling with their values, which were deeply rooted in their culture. Vorak approached her one last time before the summit closed. The uncertainty in his eyes spoke volumes. "You challenge everything we have known," he admitted, his voice a mix of admiration and confusion. Alicia smiled, her heart racing. "And you challenge me in this exchange, we both grow stronger." As the final discussions concluded, Alicia stood at the edge of a massive balcony overlooking Kythara Prime. The landscape was a mix of towering machines and fiery skies, a symbol of Kytharian strength. But she saw something different now, a world open to change. The Kytharians had begun to see humanity through new eyes. They were no longer just weak beings, but fierce, compassionate warriors with a deep capacity for sacrifice and unity. In that moment, Alicia felt a surge of hope. The foundation was laid for something greater, a bridge formed between two worlds, each ready to learn from the other. As she looked out over the industrial expanse, she knew the journey was far from over. But now, both humans and Kytharians stood on the edge of understanding. Strength would be redefined, and a new alliance was on the horizon. This was only the beginning. Alicia Trent stepped off the shuttle, heart racing with anticipation. Kythara Prime was just the beginning. With the Kytharians' admiration still fresh in her mind from the summit, she knew her next mission was crucial. She would travel to other predator worlds. Each destination promised new lessons. Her first stop was Zarok, home of the fierce Valari. As her ship descended, she gazed at the sprawling metallic cities below. The air smelled of iron and smoke, blending with the scent of ozone. Towering structures, sharp and angular, rose like jagged teeth against the sky. The Valari, known for their brutal might and keen instincts, awaited her arrival. Alicia stepped onto the platform, the ground vibrating beneath her feet. The roar of engines filled the air as heavy ships landed around her. Valari warriors, clad in dark armor, eyed her with interest. They were muscular, their segmented features glistening in the harsh light. Each movement was precise, full of power. Yet there was something more. As she walked among them, she felt their gaze. It was not just curiosity, it was recognition. A spark of something primal flickered in their eyes. She raised her chin, pushing aside her nerves. The memories of the Kytharians flooded back to her. Their respect was earned through shared stories of survival, courage, and sacrifice. "Show us your strength," a Valari warrior challenged, his voice low and commanding. Alicia understood the unspoken message. They wanted to see who she was. She stepped forward, taking a deep breath. The taste of metal filled her mouth as she focused. She recounted the tale of a small human colony, overwhelmed but unyielding. How the inhabitants banded together against an overwhelming force. The struggle, the losses, and the final triumph echoed in her mind. She painted vivid images with her words. The Valari listened intently, their expressions shifting from skepticism to respect. The air was thick with tension as she finished. For a moment, silence hung between them. Then the warrior nodded. He acknowledged her courage, a show of honor from a proud species. Alicia felt a warmth spread within her. She was not just a diplomat, she was a bridge between worlds. Next, she traveled to Tyrus. Here, the cunning Gorath lived. The atmosphere was different. Shadows danced among the tall, thin structures. The air was filled with the scent of spices and smoke. The Gorath were known for their stealth and intelligence, and as she arrived, she could feel their eyes watching from the dark corners. Each step she took felt heavier than the last. She sensed their wariness, their instinct to remain guarded. As she approached a gathering place, the Gorath emerged, moving like ghosts. Their skin shimmered, and the night seemed to bend around them. Alicia recalled her experience with the Kytharians and Valari. She took a deep breath and spoke. "I come in peace. I seek to understand this time." Her voice did not waver. The Gorath narrowed their eyes but stepped closer, intrigued. They wanted to see her bravery, her intelligence. Alicia shared another story, this time of human innovation in desperate times. How a community designed makeshift defenses to fend off invaders. She spoke of the creativity born from necessity. The Gorath listened closely. She could see their respect growing, shifting the air around her like a current. They whispered among themselves, voices soft but urgent. Alicia felt the weight of their scrutiny. She understood that they were not just judging her as a diplomat. They were evaluating her as a creature of instinct, like them. After her stories, Alicia sensed a change. The Gorath opened their ranks, allowing her to join their discussions. They spoke of strategy, survival, and how instinct guided their decisions. The exchange was electric. As she participated, Alicia felt a connection deeper than mere diplomacy. It was a recognition of shared traits among apex predators. As she traveled from world to world, Alicia noticed something profound. The Kytharians, Valari, and Gorath all reacted similarly to her presence. They saw strength not just in her stories, but in her spirit. The warmth of camaraderie replaced the cold mistrust, but she also felt the weight of her role. Each time she shared a story, she was not just revealing human resilience, she was redefining their understanding of strength. This realization rippled through her, a mixture of pride and responsibility. Back on Kythara Prime, Alicia met with Vorak. His segmented exoskeleton glinted under the harsh lights. He approached her with a newfound respect. The skepticism that once clouded his judgment had faded. "You have shown us a different path," he said, his voice steady. Alicia smiled, her heart swelling. "I only shared what I've seen. Strength comes in many forms." The Kytharian warrior nodded, absorbing her words. Together, they had forged a bond that was more than mere diplomacy. It was an alliance built on understanding. As she prepared to leave Kythara Prime for her next destination, Alicia looked to the stars. The journey ahead was uncertain, but she felt ready. She had earned respect across species. Each world had taught her something valuable. The realization dawned on her. It was not just the Kytharians who recognized human strength. The Valari, the Gorath, and others had begun to see the same. In her eyes, they saw courage. In her heart, they felt resilience. As ships whirred to life, the metallic sounds echoed through the air. Alicia looked back at the Forge world. The Kytharians were not just warriors. They were allies who began to understand that strength was not simply about power. It was about the connections they formed. In the vastness of space, Alicia was no longer just a diplomat. She was a beacon of hope, a symbol of unity among the predators of the galaxy. The air buzzed with potential as she prepared for the next chapter. The galaxy awaited, and so did its possibilities. Alicia Trent stood on the metallic ground of Kythara Prime, the air thick with tension. Days of intense discussions had changed everything. The Kytharians, once dismissive, began to see humans differently. They were starting to recognize the strength behind Alicia's compassion. But something deeper lurked beneath their hardened exteriors. In a dimly lit archive, Alicia discovered ancient records etched into a stone wall. Her fingers brushed the cool, rough surface. Dim lights flickered, illuminating the intricate carvings. Each symbol told stories of warriors, survival, and unity. Kytharians believed they were the apex predators, but these records hinted at something more profound. The holographic display flickered to life, projecting images of battles fought long ago. Powerful Kytharian warriors clashed against fierce enemies. Yet, Alicia noticed a pattern. With each battle, a flash of instinctual recognition appeared between species. Each Kytharian, each image, resonated with an echo of survival. A voice of an ancient Kytharian echoed in her mind. Strength lies not in power alone, but in connection. Alicia leaned closer. This was the genetic memory Kytharians spoke of. It linked apex predators across the galaxy. Humans were part of a greater narrative. As she absorbed the information, Alicia felt an urgency. She gathered Vorak and the Kytharian Council. They stood before her, their segmented exoskeletons gleaming under the harsh lights. The grinding of gears echoed through the chamber as they approached the table. Tension filled the air, thick as smoke. "We share a bond," Alicia began, her voice steady. "Humanity's resilience is tied to your own strength. We are more alike than different." Vorak shifted uneasily, his segmented armor clinked softly. He had always viewed humans as weak. But now doubt gnawed at him. He witnessed Alicia's bravery. He saw her protect him from that rogue machine. Her compassion echoed in his thoughts. But before they could delve deeper, alarms blared. The ground shook beneath them. A new threat approached outside. A massive ship loomed, dark and angular. It was an alien craft, armed and ready. The Kytharians leaped into action, their honor-bound instincts kicking in. Alicia felt the rush of adrenaline. She couldn't let fear take over. "We need to work together." She yelled amidst the chaos. Kytharians glanced at her, confused yet curious. They had never relied on anyone but themselves. The alien ship unleashed a barrage of energy blasts. The air crackled with danger. Kytharian war machines roared to life, their engines thrumming. The heavy scent of burning metal filled the air. Alicia joined the fray, her heart racing. She climbed aboard a Kytharian tank, its surface hot beneath her fingers. The cockpit smelled of oil and steel. She could feel the vibrations of the machinery as the tank rolled forward. Kytharian soldiers surrounded her, their eyes fierce with determination. Together, they launched an assault against the invading ship. Kytharian weaponry unleashed waves of energy. The blasts illuminated the sky, painting it in hues of red and orange. The sound of metal clashing and the roar of engines filled her ears. Alicia's quick thinking led to a creative strategy. Flank them. Use the terrain for cover. She directed the Kytharians, her voice cutting through the turmoil. They hesitated for a moment, then followed her lead. The Kytharians began to adapt, using their heavy machinery in ways they had never considered. They moved in formation, powerful and coordinated. And as they fought, a remarkable thing began to happen. They started to see Alicia not as a weakness, but as a source of strength. Vorak fought beside her, his massive weapon blazing. He glanced at Alicia, understanding dawning in his eyes. For the first time, he saw humanity's resilience reflected in her actions. The power of emotional intelligence was undeniable. As the battle raged, Alicia's heart swelled. In this moment, they were united. Kytharians and humans fought as one. Together, they pushed back the invasion. They faced a common enemy, showcasing a blend of brute strength and clever strategy. The alien ship began to falter, its dark design showing signs of defeat. The sound of metal crumpling and alarms blaring filled the air. Alicia felt a wave of triumph. It was more than victory, it was a realization. When the dust settled, the Kytharians gathered around Alicia. They looked at her with newfound respect. Her bravery, compassion, and leadership had changed their views. They began to see that strength came in many forms. Vorak stepped forward, his voice low and steady. "You showed us a different kind of power today." He nodded, the weight of his words heavy. "Strength lies not in dominance, but in unity." "We fought as one." Alicia smiled. The battle had forged an unexpected bond. The Kytharians had accepted her. They recognized humanity's place among the stars. As they surveyed the aftermath, a sense of vulnerability washed over the Kytharians. They had assumed strength meant isolation, but Alicia had opened their eyes. True strength required understanding and connection. The atmosphere buzzed with hope. Together, they had faced the unknown. The Kytharians were beginning to understand that their previous beliefs had blinded them. There was more to strength than sheer force. Alicia felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had become a leader, not just for her people but for all apex predators. In this moment, the galaxy had shifted. Kytharians and humans would walk forward together, united. This battle was not just a victory against an enemy. It was a step toward something greater, a new beginning where alliances could flourish. And together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. The sound of distant cheers erupted around them, echoing through the Forge world. In the heart of Kythara Prime, a new truth had emerged. Humans and Kytharians were not just allies, they were equals. Their journey had just begun. The air crackled with energy as the Kytharians and humans prepared for battle. Alicia Trent could feel the heavy roar of war machines vibrating beneath her feet. The scent of hot metal hung thick in the air, mixed with the faint whiff of burning fuel. It was time to test the alliance forged in the heat of their shared struggles. Kythara Prime shook as the enemy ships emerged from the shadows. Their dark hulls glimmered beneath the distant suns. The Kytharians moved in formation, their segmented exoskeletons gleaming, ready to unleash their heavy firepower. Alicia stood beside Vorak, her heart pounding. This was more than just a battle. It was a chance to prove that humanity belonged among the stars. As the Kytharian war machines advanced, Alicia felt the weight of their gaze. They trusted her now, a human among giants. She could see the determination in their eyes, a mixture of fierce pride and new respect. The battle was not just for survival. It was for identity, for strength, for unity. "Now," Vorak barked, his voice cutting through the chaos. The ground trembled as massive artillery fired, sending shells soaring into the sky. Explosions lit up the darkening horizon, casting eerie shadows across the battlefield. Alicia felt the heat of the blasts on her skin. She could hear the whistling of incoming fire. It sounded like a storm, wild and unstoppable. But through the noise, she focused on a plan. She had learned well from the Kytharians, who valued strategy as much as brute force. "Fire at their flanks," she shouted, her voice steady despite the chaos. The Kytharian forces responded immediately, their formations shifting like a well-oiled machine. It was a sight to behold, a blend of human ingenuity and Kytharian might. The enemy ships returned fire. Bolts of energy streaked across the air, crackling with lethal intent. Alicia ducked instinctively, feeling the rush of wind as a blast passed close by. The Kytharians fought with unyielding ferocity, yet she could sense their reliance on her guidance. She had earned their respect, reinforced the left. Alicia called out, watching as more Kytharian warriors charged into the fray. The metallic clang of weapons filled her ears. It was a symphony of conflict, resonating with the raw power of their combined forces. She had never felt so alive, so integral to something greater. Then, in the chaos, a Kytharian officer fell, injured by an enemy blast. Alicia rushed forward without thinking. She pulled the officer to safety, her heart racing. The smell of scorched metal and burning plasma filled her nostrils, but she focused on the task at hand. Vorak fought beside her, his massive frame moving with a grace that belied his size. "Protect the humans," he bellowed, rallying his warriors. They responded with a fierce battle cry, now unified in purpose. The Kytharians had changed, realizing that strength also came from protecting the vulnerable. Together, they pushed back the enemy. Each explosion revealed their tenacity. The tide of battle began to shift. With each victory, Alicia felt the Kytharians' belief in her grow. She was no longer just a diplomat. She was a warrior among warriors. As the last enemy ship fell, a wave of jubilation washed over the battlefield. The ground shook with the cheers of Kytharian warriors. Alicia could hardly believe it. They had won. A mix of relief and pride surged through her. She turned to face the gathering Kytharian leaders, awaiting their acknowledgement. Vorak stepped forward, chest heaving with exertion. "Today we have seen strength," he declared, his voice booming. "Strength in our unity, strength in our resolve, and strength in the humans who stand beside us." The words echoed through the ranks, and silence followed as Kytharians absorbed their new reality. Alicia felt the weight of those words. The Kytharians were beginning to understand. They were ready to see humans as equals, not just fragile beings. She stepped forward, her heart filled with conviction. "Together, we are more than we could ever be apart," she said, her voice steady. "We have forged a bond that will ripple through the galaxy." The Kytharians nodded, their eyes shining with newfound respect. In that moment, a new alliance was born, one that could change the fate of many worlds. The galaxy watched as the Kytharians formally recognized humanity as apex predators, not just warriors, but partners. Alicia felt a surge of hope. The harsh realities of war had united them, and the bond they forged today would shape the future. A new age dawned under the watchful gaze of distant stars. Together, humans and Kytharians would stand strong, ready to face whatever came next. Alicia Trent stood at the center of the newly formed council chamber. The room hummed with energy, a blend of Kytharian machinery and human design. Each feature echoed a commitment to unity. The walls glistened with dark, segmented technology, while the air carried the scent of hot metal and fresh paint. It was a blend of both species, each contributing to a shared future. Vorak moved beside her, his segmented exoskeleton glinting in the light. The Kytharian warrior had become a steadfast ally. Together, they had fought against the foreign invaders, learning to trust each other's strengths. The victory had transformed not only their armies, but also their peoples. As they surveyed the chamber, Alicia felt a rush of hope. "Today," she began, her voice steady, "we mark a new era." The words hung in the air, sparking anticipation. Kytharian and human faces turned toward her, eyes glinting with curiosity. They yearned to see what this new partnership could bring. Through shared stories of sacrifice and triumph, they had broken barriers. The Kytharians had seen not just humans, but allies. In the aftermath of battle, they pledged to share technology, knowledge, and most importantly, respect. Her heart swelled as she recalled the moment when Vorak, once skeptical, had defended her in battle. It was a testimony to the newfound understanding between their worlds. The chamber was soon filled with discussion. Plans for joint training and technology exchange swirled around them. The sound of Kytharian voices, deep and rumbling, mixed with human excitement. It was a symphony of cooperation. The once separate worlds were now linked by their shared strength. As the meeting continued, Alicia felt a sense of belonging. She was more than a diplomat now. She was a beacon of change. Together with Vorak, she would ensure their journey forward would be one of unity. They had transformed their place among the stars. In that moment, she understood the true essence of strength. It was not just in weapons or technology, but in hearts aligning for a common goal. They would face whatever challenges lay ahead, side by side, united in purpose. The galaxy was vast, but this was just the beginning.